Hi everybody. So hopefully this video won't be too long today. We're just doing some quick practices in Springboard about the terms foil and dramatic irony. So first on page 389, just here, we are going to be doing a little activity about foils. So Springboard gives you a nice little definition for foil. All we're looking at on this page is just this practice role play section right here. Okay, that's it. That's all you need to look at. So first, I want to go over the terms that we gave you on your sheet. So for foil, our short definition is just character opposites for emphasis. So basically, this is characters who have either opposing emotions or maybe like opposite character traits, so that you can emphasize the differences between those characters. Okay, the longer definition in the book says a foil is a character whose actions or thoughts are juxtaposed against those of a major character in order to highlight key attributes of the major character. So again, that's just a longer way of saying the same thing we have on your sheet here, which is we put characters that have opposite traits against each other to emphasize something important about those characters. Okay, and our short little journal activity is going to deal with exactly that. So, and I know I'm kind of skipping around on the plans, but you'll see how these all connect. So your journal, number 5, says choose one of the 3 situations from page 389 and determine what the outcome would be. Now, I'm going to make a note here just so everyone is clear. All you're doing is making a prediction, okay? You cannot be wrong here because you're just making a prediction or a guess. So there's 3 scenarios here, A, B, and C. In scenario A, a student shows up in his teacher's room one morning asking for help. He is madly in love and wants to get married in secret. The teacher is doubtful because this same student was in love with a different girl the day before. Now, to be clear, the student is not in love with the teacher. Every year somebody thinks that. The student is in love with another student. The student is just trying to get advice from his teacher on what he should do. Okay, so that's one scenario. Then we have 2 friends are talking about a third friend who ditched them mysteriously the previous night. The third friend shows up and they start teasing him about what he was doing the night before. So this is our second scenario there. Actually, sorry, I can zoom in a little bit more for you guys. There we go. Finally, we have a girl sent her best friend on a mission to find out if the boy she likes will go out with her. The best friend returns, but will not answer the girl's questions. Instead, she just wants to talk about herself. Okay, so you guys are going to choose one of these 3 scenarios, and in your journal, I want you to predict how do you think that situation would end? Like, what do you think would happen? What would these characters say to each other? Just how would this interaction go down in real life? And what do you think the end outcome would be? So I also am going to give you a little heads up preview that after you may, actually, you know what? I'm going to even embed in here, just pause. Pause the video right now. Make your prediction. Okay, hopefully you paused and came back. If you didn't pause, do it now. Okay. All right. So you're going to see in our reading today as we finish Act 2 that the situations described up here are going to be present in our play. So actually, this kind of scenario, let me zoom back out a little bit. There we go. In this scenario A, That's going to actually match up down here with Act 2, Scene 3. We have scenario B is going to match up with what happens in Act 2, Scene 4. And then we have scenario C, and that's going to match up with what happens in Act 2, Scene 5. Okay, so you'll actually see in the play how these situations turn out. Now, if you guys already watched the film, you should pretty much already know how those situations turned out anyway. The second thing we are going to do today, and again, this is just a short little practice, we are going to review our term, dramatic irony, which we did in our, well, not our last unit, but the unit before the last unit. So remember, for dramatic irony, this is when the audience or the reader knows something that the character does not know. Okay, so something that we know as we're reading the Shakespeare play that the characters do not know. Now, Shakespeare actually intentionally sets this play up in the prologue, and he gives a lot of foreshadowing throughout the play that Romeo and Juliet's love story is not going to end well. In fact, we should have all watched the movie by now, so you should all know the ending. But we know that it is actually going to end in their death. So this is a really important passage that comes from a portion of, let me make them up here, Act 2, Scene 6. So these are, we're going to read those four scenes today from Act 2. Oh, and I'm sorry, now I'm on page 391. Okay, I just flipped the page. And all I want you to look at on here are these. And I'm going to go ahead and highlight these metaphors for you because I do think this is a difficult passage. So let me just read it to you first. These violent delights have violent ends, and in their triumph die, like fire and powder, which as they kiss, consume. The sweetest honey is loathsome in its own deliciousness, and in the taste confounds the appetite. Therefore, love moderately. Long love doth so. Too swift arrives as tardy as too slow. Okay, so this is the friar speaking to Romeo directly. Obviously, the topic here is love. Okay, but what is the friar actually saying about love? So first, we have a couple extended metaphors that kind of continue throughout here. So first, the friar identifies that love is like a violent delight, or it is a violent delight, and violent delights have violent ends. So I think we could substitute maybe even kind of like the word passionate here, just to modernize it a little bit and make it easier to understand. But passionate delights, like when you're filled with a lot of emotion, tend to have passionate ends, right? And not always in a positive way. Then let's continue on with this metaphor. In their triumph die, like fire and powder, which as they kiss consume. So you guys know, like fire and powder, we're talking about like gunpowder, which when these two elements touch, like kiss, right, they would explode. So the friar's actually comparing Romeo and Juliet's love to an explosion, okay, or something that is very destructive. He also says that the sweetest honey is loathsome or hateful in its own deliciousness. So loathsome means hateful. So the most delicious or the sweetest tasting honey is hateful because it is so good. And in the taste confounds the appetite. So sometimes having something that is so perfect or so delicious or so sweet is maybe not the best thing for you. So his advice is therefore love moderately. Long love doth so. So don't love someone with a burning passion that is going to be full of emotion and violence and like strong feelings, because it will burn out very quickly, right? Just like fire and powder. He's saying that the secret to having long-lasting love is to just love someone moderately, like love them deeply and truly, but not with all of the overwhelming passion and emotion that Romeo and Juliet's love is characterized by. So this is asking you to highlight metaphors that reveal the friar's true feelings about the wedding. So, I mean, I think we can conclude here that the friar does not necessarily feel very positively towards this wedding. I think he feels pretty conflicted, but he does it anyway because we know they get married. So how does the friar really feel about Romeo and Juliet's wedding? Why do the friar and nurse, adults who care deeply about the young lovers, allow Romeo and Juliet to act so quickly on their feelings? So I don't know how many people have been keeping up with the days of the play, but let me just tell you that the masquerade ball, okay, that's day one. Day one. The wedding, guess what day that is? 2. Day 2. Romeo and Juliet know each other for like 12 hours before they get married. So on our plot chart here, let me zoom out for you a little bit. Let's see, all of this, right? We've got our party. I would say all of like this part, roughly to there, day 1 of the play. Okay, technically, I guess some of this happens after midnight, so I guess this is like a little flexible. Technically, this would be like 1 a.m. on day 2, but this is basically where day 2 starts. So everything that we're going to be reading from here out in the play, well, not, I shouldn't say from here out, but at least on this page, all of this is day 2. Which is crazy when you keep that in perspective, that they've only known each other for one night. They meet at the party, they have the balcony scene, they get married the next day. Now, of course, we also know Shakespeare only had 2 hours to tell the whole story, so, you know, he kind of fast-tracked their love story a little bit. But, obviously, the friar feels conflicted. So why do they allow Romeo and Juliet to act so quickly on their feelings? Like, why would they do this? Well, I have to say, I think, and actually not I think, but the friar makes it very clear that, I should say like this, Romeo and Juliet's union could help end the feud. Okay, the only reason that the friar really agrees to do this wedding, as we're going to see in Act 2, Scene 3, when Romeo talks to him, he only agrees to do this really because he thinks it will help end the feud between their families. So that's something to keep in mind as you read. So if you followed along with me in this video, you should have basically our whole first page of PowerPoint completed. We talked about the terms foil and dramatic irony. We completed journal number 5. We looked at the 3 scenes that were on the previous page. We looked at the second page of Springboard. We answered questions 2 and 3. So all you should have left to do today is finish reading Act 2, and please feel encouraged to use the audio companion link. Please feel encouraged to use those videos that we had sent out to you with the like summary characterizations with the little cartoon people. We do have some comprehension questions for you just to make sure that you are following along with the play. Remember, for the comprehension questions, you do not have to write me paragraphs or even full sentences for most of them. For most of the questions, you can probably just give me a couple word answers, okay? The last thing, and let me make sure this is projecting the right way. I just want to make sure that you guys are able to finish your plot summary here. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up from where we left off the last time. So we have number 5 here. Romeo seeks out Friar Lawrence and asks him to marry Juliet and Romeo. Friar Lawrence, as I just mentioned, sees an opportunity to end the feud between the Capulets and the Montagues and agrees. So right after that, Romeo reunites with Benvolio and Mercutio, and they tease him about Rosaline. This is an important point, okay? Romeo never has a chance to tell his friends about Juliet. So his friends actually have no idea. Then Juliet's nurse arrives and Romeo tells her that Friar Lawrence will marry, there we go, the couple that very afternoon. The nurse returns to tell Juliet, or to Juliet, and tells her of Romeo's plan. So at the very end of Act 2, Juliet meets Romeo and Friar Lawrence, and then they are married. And that's where we're going to leave off for today. So, happy reading. I hope you guys enjoy. I think some of these scenes are actually really funny. So, again, feel free to use the video companions to help you with the comprehension. And I will chat with you guys at some point next week. All right. Bye.